All right, so today we're going to do a little bit more graphing, but as before we were just choosing our points and we could do whatever we wanted, we're going to do a specific method called using the intercepts. So remember, we have two intercepts. We have one that will be on the x-axis. So there'll be a point that actually sits on this axis somewhere. And then we'll have one that sits on the y-axis. Also recall that anything that sits on the x-axis has some sort of value of x and 0 for y. And ones that lie on the y-axis have a 0 for x because it doesn't move left or right, and some sort of value for y for the y-axis. Okay, so using this idea and knowing that we have to have a 0 for x or a 0 for y to get my intercepts, I'm going to go ahead and look at the equation that I have here. So I'm going to create my xy table, or my t table. And first I'm going to start off with x is equal to 0. Okay. Now, a trick to know when x is equal to 0, anything times 0 is equal to 0, right? So the piece that is equal to 0 is actually just going to go away. So this 2x, or this 2 times 0, is going to go away. It's not going to be there. So what we're left is a positive 4y is equal to 8. And to solve for y, we just have to go ahead and divide by 4. So y is equal to 2. The math for intercepts is actually really easy. We're going to do the same thing, but instead of x being 0, y is going to be 0. Okay? And this will give us our 2 points that we can go ahead and graph. So if this is 0, this piece goes away. So we're left with 2x is equal to 8, dividing both by 2. X is equal to 4. So we have two ordered pairs. We have 0, 2, and 4, 0. And we only need 2 points to graph it. If we wanted to create a checkpoint, we could. We're not going to do that in this case. And these, when you graph by intercepts, must be the only points you use when you graph. Okay, so I have 0, 2, so 0 on the x, 2 on the y. It's my y-intercept. And I have 4, 0. Which is my x-intercept. And then I just go ahead and connect my dots. Okay, and I have graphed this using the intercepts. Could I use any other point? Not if they tell me to use graphing by intercepts. If they say, hey, just graph this, you can pick whatever points you want. But if you haven't discovered yet, intercepts are actually going to be your friend. It's going to make the math very easy, especially when it's in standard form like this. Let's go ahead and look at another one. Right? So again, I'm going to graph using intercepts, so I have x and y. And at one point x is going to be 0, and at one point y is going to be 0, and I'm going to go ahead and figure this out. So when x is 0, this piece here disappears. Okay? So because that disappears, I have y is equal to negative 4. Wow, that was easy. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at the other value. So now I have y is equal to 0. When this is equal to 0, it goes away. Okay? So I'm left with 2x is equal to negative 4. You divide by negative 2. So the sign cancels as well. And if x is equal to negative, divided by negative is a positive, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I have 2 points. I have 0, negative 4, and I have 2, 0. And I can go ahead, just connect my lines. Well, that's not very good. Let's do that again. That's much better. Right, and I'm done. Easy enough. Look at another example here, still using intercepts. All right, so that means that x and y, you take turns being 0. So if x is 0, I know that 3x goes away. I'm left with negative 4y is equal to 24. If I divide by negative 4, y is equal to negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 6 times 4 is 24, so you can kind of work it out that way. Y is equal to negative 6. Okay? If I go ahead and substitute y for 0, that means this piece here goes away. And I'm left with 3x is equal to 24. Divide by 3, x is equal to 8. All right, so I need a few more lines here. I have 6, 7, 8, so I have 8, 0. And I have 0, negative 6. And I go ahead and connect my lines. Okay, so at this point you just pick 0 for one, solve for the other, and vice versa. Okay, so here's another one. We're going to solve by intercepts. So I'm going to start off making x 0. Something interesting happens here, though. When x is equal to 0, that means have y is equal to negative 5 times 0, which means y is equal to 0. So my point is the origin. The origin is both my x and my y intercept. Well, dang. If I'm supposed to graph my intercepts, what am I supposed to do now? If you plug a number in and you get the origin, or 0, 0, you are allowed to pick any number you would like to get your second point. I recommend keeping it small, 1 or negative 1 or something similar. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use negative 1, which means I have y is equal to negative 5 times negative 1, and negative times a negative is a positive, which gives me positive 5. So my second point is going to be negative 1, positive 5. And I just go and connect my 2 points from there. If I had picked positive 1, I would have ended up with negative 5. And you see that it comes pretty close. My line's a little off. I should have a point here. But because it's a hand graph, it's a little bit off. Yeah. Let's go ahead and look at one more. We have y is equal to 1/4 x. Okay, it's a fraction. So again, I'm using intercepts. That's what I was told to do. And if x is 0, because that's where my math is, y is also 0. So again, I have the origin. So I can pick any second point I want. Remember, my denominator is 4. Okay, so I want to pick a value of x such that it cancels out. So you can use the denominator or any multiples of it. I'm going to choose positive 4. So that means I have 1/4 times 4 over 1. And that's going to equal my y. 4 over 4 is equal to 1. So y is equal to 1. So when x is 4, y is 1. I can go ahead and connect my 2 points. All right. And I want you to notice a little something here with my 2 equations. So notice on this one, I had a whole number and my line was really steep. This one I had a fraction and my line was really shallow. We're going to talk about that when we talk about slope, but it's just something to go ahead and keep in mind. All right, so go ahead and work on the practice problems. I'll see you in the next video.